Hey guys! I hope you're all doing well. I'm sorry it's been a long time since I've uploaded, but I just had an amazing burlesque performance last night with my partner, Jin Fizz. I'm Fanny Fahrenheit. It was so much fun, and we've been practicing the brand new choreography that we had to make up in just 2 weeks for this show, so that's why I haven't really been uploading as much. But today, I returned and it's time for Chapter 11 of Rubyfruit Jungle. This is actually the first chapter in the third section of the book. So last time with Chapter 10, we left off with Molly leaving college actually because her relationship with Faye had that whole blow up with everybody and they got kicked out of the sororities and their scholarships and stuff. So we'll see what happens in Chapter 11. Mother was sitting in her green stuffed rocking chair when I walked through the door. "You can turn around and walk right out. I know everything that went on up there. The Dean of Women called me up. You just turn your ass around and get out." "Mom, you only know what they told you." "I know who let your ass run away with your head, that's what I know. A queer. I raised a queer, that's what I know. You're lower than them dirty fruit pickers in the groves, you know that?" "Mom, you don't understand anything. Why don't you let me tell my side of it?" "I don't want to hear nothing you can say. You always were a bad one. You never obeyed nobody's rules. Mine, the school's, and now you go defying God's rules. Go on and get out of here. I don't want you. Why the hell you bother to come back here?" "Because you're the only family I got. Where else am I going to go?" "That's your problem, smart pants. You'll have no friends, and you got no family. Let's see how far you get, you little snot nose. You thought you'd go to college and be better than me? You thought you'd go mix with the rich? And you still think you're dandy, don't you? Even being a stinking queer don't shake you none. I can see conceit writ all over your face. Well, I hope I live to see the day you put your tail between your legs. I'll laugh right in your face. Then you'd better live to see me dead." I picked up my suitcase by the door and walked out into the cool night air. I had $14.61 in my jeans. That's what was left over from Faye's money, and the remains of mine after the bus ticket. That wouldn't get me half to New York City, and that's where I was going. There are so many queers in New York that one more wouldn't rock the boat. I walked down Northeast 14th Street to Route 1, and there I parked my suitcase on the ground and stuck out my thumb. Nobody seemed to notice me. I was beginning to think I'd have to walk to New York when a station wagon with Georgia plates pulled up. A man, woman, and child sat inside looking me over. The woman motioned for me to hop in. She started right up. "My husband thought you might be some stranded college student. Came on down here for a break and your money ran out, did it?" "Yes, ma'am, that's exactly what happened, and you know I couldn't tell my parents I was down here. They'd have fits." The man chuckled. "Kids. Where do you go to school?" "Oh, I go to Barnard up in New York City." "Oh, you do have a long way to go," the woman said. "Yes, ma'am, and I bet you all aren't going up that far, are you?" "No, but we're going as far as Statesboro, Georgia," she laughed. "You got spunk hitching," her husband admired. "I've never seen a girl hitch before." "Maybe you've never seen a girl broke before." They both roared and agreed that the days of flaming youth were back in style. They were nice people, homey, suburban, and boring, but nice all the same. They warned me not to get in a car with more than one man in it and to try to hold out for a car with a woman passenger. When they left me off at the Gulf station in Statesboro, the man gave me a $10 bill and wished me luck. They waved goodbye as they drove off into the sunset of the nuclear family. I took up under an aging tree drenched in Spanish moss. After 3 or more hours, a car finally pulled over. The driver was near my age, clean-cut and alone. Well, if he tries anything, I have a fighting chance. "Hi, how far are you going?" "All the way to New York City." "Come on in. You hit the jackpot. I'm going to Boston." I slung myself into the low Corvette and prayed he wasn't recently released from a mental institution. Maybe he should be praying. I was the one just out of protective custody. "My name is Ralph. What's yours?" "Molly Bolt." "Hi, Molly." "Hi, Ralph." "How come you're hitching? That's dangerous, you know that?" "Yeah, I know that, but I didn't exactly have a fat choice." I launched into my rap about running out of money. Ralph was short, muscular, and had blonde, curly hair. He went to MIT and majored in nuclear physics. He was a friendly young man, interested in me, but too polite to lunge. I had latched onto a lucky ride. All I had to do was talk. keep him entertained, and take a turn at the wheel. He was in a hurry to get back, so we skipped a potentially gruesome motel scene. The glove compartment was crammed with decks, so there was no danger of flaking out. We talked nonstop all the way up the eastern seaboard. Finally, I understood the quantum theory, and Ralph understood the rise of Joseph Stalin. At last, when we came through the Holland Tunnel, I understood that there never was a city like New York. I was coming into a foreign land without one friend and very little money. Molly, let me drive you to your door. I don't mind at all. Thanks, but I'd like to walk around a little. Sounds corny, but I really want to do it. Why don't you leave me in Washington Square? I had read somewhere in some trashy book that the square was the hub of the village, and the village was the hub of homosexuality. Ralph dropped me right in front of the arch. He gave me his address, a kiss, and a cheery goodbye, and drove off in a puff of carbon gas. I had to fight back an urge to call him back and tell him I didn't know one damn thing about this monster city, and why not switch schools to New York and be my friend. The temperature was in the 30s, and all I had was the thin jacket with a crew neck sweater on underneath, plus $24.61 in my pocket. The square was not teeming with flashy gay people as I had hoped. I started up Fifth Avenue and tried not to cry. Faces were coming at me in all directions, and I didn't know one of them. People were pushing and hurrying, and no one smiled, not even a little grin. This wasn't a city. It was some branch of hell, the hanging gardens of neon burning into my skull. Hell or not, there was no place for me to go, so this would be my place. I got as far as 14th Street. The mad shoppers rushing from Macy's and Klein's nearly trampled me. I was turned around to go back to the square. At least it was quieter there. It was getting late and an acid drizzle was coming down. Already I could feel the pollution caking in my nostrils and my eyes burning from the fumes. Hunger hit me like a semi since the decks wore off, but I was afraid to spend any money on food. I knew I couldn't spend any on a room either. It looked as though I was going to curl up in the fountain in the park and freeze to death. My hands had begun to crack and bleed from carrying my suitcase in the cold. My toes were ice cubes. I didn't have any socks. Who wears socks in Florida? The square was deserted save for a few couples strolling through and a drunk down by the chess tables. Now what the flying hell am I going to do? I turned toward New York University and studied the buildings, dimly perceiving they were some type of institution. Maybe I can sneak in there and sleep. I went to the main entrance, but it was locked. Then I trotted around to a side entrance on University Place. That door was locked too. Well, I could run around the block all night to keep warm. As I turned, I noticed a wrecked Hudson car. Faded red and black, crumpled up in front with all the tires robbed from its wheels. It slumped in front of the chock full of nuts. It looked beautiful to me, and it was home. I went over to crawl in the back seat only to find it was occupied, but the front seat was empty, and the steering wheel was busted so it wouldn't get in the way. I opened the door and slid in. The young man in the back seat lifted his hat off his head with a flourish. "Good evening, madame. Are you going to share these accommodations with me?" "If it's okay with you, I am." "It's okay with me." He tipped his hat back over his eyes, pulled his heavy coat over his shoulders, and fell asleep. The next morning I woke up with him leaning over the front seat, poking me. "Hey, babe, come on. We gotta get out of here. Time to hustle." I sat up and looked at him in delight. He had the longest eyelashes I had ever seen on anyone. His skin was the color of coffee after you put the cream in, and his eyes were clear, deep brown. He had a bristling, happy mustache over a full, red mouth. In short, this guy was gorgeous. I was trying to remember where I was and trying to find out if my limbs had dropped off from frostbite. "Come on, grab your suitcase and let's go to Chockfull. There's a sister in there who will feed us for free. Up!" Knots of sleepy students were rushing to make their 9 o'clock class. The revolving door to Chockfull was spinning like a top, and I was so tired I went around twice before I could get myself out. Oh, I wouldn't say I was in that car. Saves rent. Actually, you were lucky to find me at home last night. I usually sleep at the house of whoever I go home with. You get breakfast that way, too. But you'd better not plan on that. Lesbians don't pick each other up on the street. I know a couple bars we can try out tonight and maybe you'll get lucky. You shouldn't have trouble. You're good looking and young. Two priceless attributes. If it's all the same to you, I think I'll pass that by. Oh, I know. We only do it for love. Uh, well, do you want to keep sleeping in that car and freeze your ass? No. Then you'd better hustle a little, sweetheart. He gave me a pinch on the elbow. The rest of that day, Calvin showed me the subway systems, how the city was laid out, and how to steal food from supermarkets, delicatessens, and even hot dog vendors in the street. We walked all through the village, and he introduced me to the street people, well-dressed numbers, runners, hookers, and a few pushers here and there. I liked them. They were the only people who smiled at me. Molly, you got any money? $24.61. If you aren't going to look, babe, you aren't getting no apartment on that dust pile. Now, I happen to know how you can make a simple $100 in a half hour, and you don't have to fuck or even take your clothes off. Can you dig that? Tell me the deal first. There's this guy, Ronnie Rappaport, the grapefruit freak. This cat gets his kicks out of being blasted with grapefruits. Come on, Calvin. No shit, that's how he does his thing. All you gotta do is go up to his apartment and throw grapefruits at him, and he'll pay you $100 in cash. See, part of his thing is he has to have a new person do it every time. Too bad, because I'd be up there every night throwing yellow curves at him. How can he afford it? They say his old man owns a big department store somewhere out in Queens. Who knows? You ready? Ready-o. Did your cheerleaders do that too? Practically coming over the phone. I told him you're 18. Looking at him, you couldn't tell he was into grapefruit. He didn't wear any fruit symbols around his neck or have embroidered seeds on his shirt. He shook my hand and took me into the next room. Calvin waited in the big living room in 8 pairs. I entered another huge room that looked like a photographer's studio, except that it was completely bare except for an enormous pile of grapefruit piled on top of one another like cannonballs. Ronnie took his clothes off. He was well muscled with a patch of curling hair between his breasts. He walked over to the end of the room and stood there, quivering. I waited for Carmen Miranda to burst through the door in a giant banana hat. Seeing my hesitation, he said in a gentle voice, "Okay, honey, I'm ready." So I picked up a grapefruit and threw it at him. Shit, I missed. It splattered against the wall. This was going to be harder than I thought. I picked up another one and carefully took aim. Squish! I got him square in the middle. He squealed with delight and got a hard-on. This isn't so bad. I like throwing things. By now I was into hitting Ronnie. I aimed for his cock. Bullseye. He loved it. I aimed for his left shoulder. Only grazed him. I started firing grapefruits like Stonewall Jackson's artillery and artillery at Manassas. Blam, blat, splat. Ronnie howled like a wounded dog, and I threw the grapefruits even harder, concentrating on his thighs and pulp-covered prick. I was down to the last round of grape shot, and began to worry that maybe I'd need more to finish him off. Ronnie knew himself very well, because as I picked up one of the remaining 4 grapefruit, he came in an arc of sticky liquid and collapsed on the floor, a lump of spent pleasure. I felt as though I had single-handedly won the battle of the bulge. I went over to pick him up. "Molly, you have a wonderful arm." Covered in pink and white pulp, he whispered of the delights of my accuracy. Too bad I don't like grapefruit, or I would have licked it off of him. I was so hungry. "You okay, Ronnie?" "Fabulous. And simply fabulous." I'm glad to hear that. If you don't need me further, I think I'll roll on." "Oh, of course. Let me give you the money. It was worth every penny. Last person I had with an arm like that throws for the Mets." He got up and walked into the next room where Calvin had wiped out the entire bowl of pears. Ronnie handed me 5 $20 bills, new. Calvin, thank you for bringing me this love. She was too Mo must stand for moron. Man, why, honey, you almost be from down the south. If she weren't so damn big, I'd belt her one right now. Yankees are compelled by some mysterious force to imitate southern accents, and they're so damn dumb they don't know the difference between a Tennessee drawl and a Charleston clip. Yes, I'm from Florida. You must be crazy. Why did you ever leave that sunshine to come up here to this cold witch's tit? More laughter. I guess I like cold witch's tits. She thought that was a witty reply and nearly knocked me over with a belly laugh. That's a good one. Speaking of tits, sugar, are you butch or femme? I looked at Calvin, but there wasn't time for him to give me a clue for this one. I beg your pardon? Now don't be coy with Mighty Mo, you southern belle. They have butches and femmes down below the Mason-Dixon line, don't they? You're a looker, baby, and I'd like to get to know you. But if you're butch, then it'd be like holding hands with your brother, now wouldn't it? You're tough luck, Mo. Sorry. Sorry, my ass. Thank God she spilled the beans. You sure fooled me. I thought you were femme. What's this world coming to when you can't tell the butches from the femmes? She slapped me on the back fraternally and sauntered off. What the flying fuck is this? A lot of these chicks divide up into butch and femme, male, female. Some people don't, but this bar is into heavy rolls, and it's the only bar I know for women. I thought you knew about that stuff, or I wouldn't have sprung it on you. That's the craziest, dumbass thing I ever heard tell of. What's the point of being a lesbian if a woman is going to look like and act like an imitation of a man? Hell, if I want a man, I'll get the real thing, not one of these chippies. I mean, Calvin, the whole point of being gay is because you love women. You don't like men that look like women, do you? Oh, me, I'm not picky. Not a lot to tell. I used to live in Philly. We had a fair-sized family, me, my brother, and one sister. I'm the middle one. My people are so tense. She thinks motherhood's gonna make her a natural woman or something. Wait until that little beast starts crying in the middle of the night. She'll wish she listened to me. She was determined that I'd marry her and settle down and we'd have a picture book family and get photographed for Ebony someday. Shit. You know what I'm going to do today? I'm going out where the young sun goes out on the but we had to pry ourselves off the thinly padded stools. On the street, we looked at each other, then slowly stretched out our right hands. It was a very formal handshake, almost like a ritual. Then we wished each other luck and went off in opposite directions to seek our fortunes. That was chapter 11. What do you think of Molly being homeless in New York? That's a little bit of a surprise, don't you think? Do you think that Molly's going to find her do in like a week and a